Hi, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the McGill Dementia Education Program's Caring Conversations. This is a free community outreach initiative that's designed to provide virtual support to care partners of people living with dementia. The McGill Dementia Education Program offers a comprehensive range of free resources to educate and support persons living with dementia, family and informal caregivers, healthcare professionals, medical students, and the public at large. An important resource is Dementia, Your Companion Guide, which is available online for free in 8 different languages. Printed copies can also be obtained at Amazon. And you can find answers to many of your questions in the extensive library of McGill Care's webcasts and podcasts. I believe we have over 80 episodes posted online that you can consult. Caring Conversations is an initiative of the McGill Dementia Education Program, and it's supported by our sponsor, Petro-Canada Caremakers Foundation. I'd like to introduce our facilitators today. Lucy Barilek received her Master of Social Work from the McGill University School of Social Work. She's developed evidence-based training for seniors and caregivers, and she has lectured in the field of social gerontology and presented at major conferences. Her research studies have been published in numerous journals. Ms. Barilek received the Queen's Jubilee Award for her role in developing a national coalition to support caregivers across Canada. Joanne Besner is an educator, professional coach, and caregiver. She received her Bachelor of Social Work and Master of Business Administration from McGill University. Her 35-year career in public community healthcare in Quebec spans many roles, including frontline case manager, clinical supervisor, manager, researcher, and trainer. So today's topic is Your Questions Answered. Lucy and Joanne will focus on the needs of Caring Conversation participants. They will address topics raised in the evaluation forms of past episodes, and we'll leave some time to respond to other questions that you may have. We ask that you keep your microphones turned off during the session. We will unmute people as needed during the discussion. We also want to let you know that this session is being recorded today and it will be posted on our website. I'll post the link in the chat. And we want you to know that we're going to stop recording 15 minutes before the end of the session today, so that if anyone has any subjects that are a little bit more confidential or sensitive, you can discuss them without having to worry about the session being recorded. So thank you very much, ladies. Please go ahead.
Thank you so much, Diane, for introducing Lucy and I. So hello, everyone. Thanks again for joining us and welcome to newcomers. So here we are. It's our 8th and final webinar of the season. So really, Lucy and I want to just start by saying a very big thank you to you for being here with us, taking this Caring Conversations journey with us. So today, and we really want to say thank you by showing you that we appreciate all the feedback and comments that you've sent to us, and especially questions. So we want to make sure that we answered as many as we could. So today we're doing it a little bit different. We've pulled out some of the questions we think many of you may be also going through besides the ones who wrote in. So we'll do a quick Q&A between Dear Lucy and Coach Joe. We're going to save some time at the end for more of your questions. So let's get started. Number 1, and these are real questions that have come in from you. How do I deal with my person who has dementia but says she is not sick? When do we know that it is serious enough that the person should not stay home? How do we evaluate risk? And I'm sure other people here or whomever is going through this really feeling for you, because many persons afflicted with dementia, especially in the beginning, they don't recognize their needs. And they do not accept help. And it makes me think of the many, many intakes that we used to receive at the CLSC, where we had to call back the caregiver and say, we can't help you yet at this time because your care recipient, the person who's afflicted, would not give permission. So at this point, we were only able to open a file for the caregivers. So how do we help people who don't recognize that they need help themselves? And this is the most frustrating thing for caregivers. So one of the only things we can do at this point is to evaluate the true risks. And of course, this is best done by a professional from the team, either a social worker, a nurse, or occupational therapist or other, by doing a home assessment. But sometimes, as I had just said, even that's a challenge. The person may not let a professional in the home or allow a file to be opened. So until then, until a proper assessment can be done, we as caregivers need to spot the risks ourselves. So it's not enough to just say, well, the person I'm caring for, their memory is horrible. It's way worse than before. Their judgment is terrible. What we have to do is ask the questions, what is that impacting on the safety on their safety, on our safety, on anyone else's safety? So ask the question, can their forgetfulness lead to a risk? A fire risk, like leaving pots on the stove? Do you see burn marks? A flood risk, could they possibly leave the water taps on? Or even getting lost, will they leave the home? These are just some examples. So when there are resulting concrete dangers from the way they're behaving, that's when we can use these facts to help obtain permission without them for an assessment. Sometimes, though, we have no choice but to wait and wait for a crisis to happen. And I don't say this insensitively. I know it from personal experience. My late mother-in-law had to fall and be hospitalized until we were able to help her in the home. So you kind of pray that some kind of a crisis will come that's bad enough to enable help in the home, but not severe enough to cause terrible harm. Until then, though, we can wait, watch, and get support for ourselves. So as for the second part of the question, how do we know if the risks are serious enough that they cannot remain at home? It's all about, so once we identify them, how well can we compensate those risks at home? We can turn off oven fuses. We can even have equipment installed like door alarms, fire alarms, equipment in home help. So it's exactly at the point where we can no longer compensate those risks at home, or the risk of burnout is so high, that's when we seek to relocate someone. So I hope I've thoroughly answered the question. And Lucy, I'm going to open if you have a comment, and Diane, especially if there's anything in the chat or anyone present here today is going through this or has an additional comment, please join us in our caring conversation.
Well, I think you really covered it all. The only other thing that I would emphasize is the risk factor. If they're not taking their medications, for example, or there's no food in the fridge, things like that. But otherwise, it's very important to identify and record all these risk factors.
Thanks, Lucy. Do you want to go on to our second question?
Sure. So this question is, how do I deal with my mother who is too proud to ask for help or too ashamed to use the resources that may be at their disposal? My mother, who's caring for my father, is not interested in getting the community support of resources that are available, like these series, for example. And this is, in a way, in denial about how severe my father's dementia is. Well, thank you for your question, because I'm sure other caregivers may be going through the same situation, and it must be frustrating. As you indicated, your mother may be in denial. You know, denial is a coping mechanism, especially when people are not ready to accept or acknowledge their feelings and their present reality. It's also part of a grief process of loss. Your mother may be struggling with all the changes that's going on with your father, fear for the future, her changing roles, her life as it used to be is no longer there. It is possible that being in denial is kind of a buffer for some of the feelings that she may be going through and not wanting to accept. You know, not asking for help and doing it all on her own possibly gives her a sense of control over her present life, since so much is out of her control. There's so many changes in her life, and she may not be ready to accept them just yet. Joanne and I talk a lot about acceptance because it is key in moving forward and dealing with present realities that people are going through. It takes a lot of time. They need support, empathy from family and friends. So how can you help? All right. I think the most important thing is just to I can understand your frustration, but stay calm. Don't challenge her about getting help. Be patient. If she wants to talk, just listen and reassure her that you are there for her. I believe that in time, reality will set in. And knowing that you're there is one of the most important things. And maybe slowly she will even allow you to take on a few other chores. So I'm just, it's not easy. It's not easy. And I know it is frustrating, especially when you see that the person is struggling, but they need time. They need time to accept it. And I'm going to emphasize again, it's probably one of the only things that they have control over is just taking it over on their own.
Yeah. Part of acceptance is accepting that sometimes the people we want to get help just aren't there yet.
For sure.
Diane, anything in the chat or anything to add?
Nothing in the chat yet.
Okay, so let's see about our next question, number 3. Lucy, go ahead.
Yes. So as a caregiver, I need to learn how to handle rapid mood swings, how to diffuse aggressive language before it escalates. What can you advise? We did this topic, we addressed it in a previous webinar, and it's worth repeating. And there is no magic solutions for this, but there are 3 words that we can offer. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about that. It's a really difficult situation to be in. People with dementia may become agitated or aggressive as the disease progresses. Most times it's for a reason. They may be in pain, they may be tired, need to go to the bathroom, even change in routine. Maybe there's too much noise and they're not able to tell you. They could be frightened. So instead of just, because they can't express their feelings, they could lash out. I think it would be helpful to keep a journal when these mood swings happen. For example, if they get agitated when you turn on the TV, they may get frightened and are not able to tell you, and therefore they become aggressive. It might be time to see the doctor. There may be a medical reason for that behavior. For example, they may have a urine infection. You can ask the doctor if there is a medication to reduce the agitation. But what I want to talk to you about today is a non-invasive tip that you could try, which I would prefer. We always prefer to go that route first before putting people on medications. So the 3 words that I want to talk about is deflect, distract, and redirect. When a person becomes agitated, one of the most important things to do is please stay calm. Don't yell or become angry. Don't challenge them or try to reason with them. They may not understand your words, but they may react to your body language. So in a soft voice, call their name and make eye contact. Smile and reach for their hand if they let you, otherwise don't. Reassure them that everything is okay. You are here with them and you will take care of them. They need to feel safe. All right, so let's look at those 3 words. First, you want to deflect. So if they're really, being aggressive or challenging, whatever they're saying, try to change the subject. And then you can ask them a question. You can talk about the family, whatever it is, whatever it takes to deflect the behavior and get their attention. Once you get their attention, distract them. Take them to another room if possible. It depends where you are. Offer them a drink. Go and try and make a cup of coffee. Take them to the toilet if need be, and do whatever you need to keep to keep that attention. The next step is to redirect them. And when we talk about redirecting, it's to a pleasant activity. So you want to do something else with them to make sure. So it's really important to have a lot of activities at hand. I'm going to talk a little bit more of activities that relates to another question. So, in this way, they can, there's so many things that you can do with them. I know it sounds very simple, but I do have to tell you that it works. Many times it really works. Because what you're actually doing, you're not challenging them, you're getting their attention, you're moving them somewhere else, and you're doing an activity with them. So if people have questions about this, I'd like to go over it a little bit more. So I'm just wondering, does anybody have a question about this little tip?
No questions at the moment. I think that's really, really wise. I love this advice, Lucy.
Thank you for that. I have to tell you, it really, really works. And on a personal level, it worked with my mother. It really does. It's hard to, because if we were in person, we could do some role playing. I could do it with Joanne and sort of, because what you want to do is you want to get their attention. You want them, that behavior. So you're there, you're caring, takes a lot of patience, and it's not an easy, but practice makes perfect.
Well said, Lucy. We must be answering all the questions then perfectly. So we'll go to the next one.
Sure.
And in the meanwhile, you can jot down your own questions because we'll definitely leave time for that. So number 4, my care person is not independent enough to go into a private residence, but not advanced enough for long-term care. I'm looking for home help as she stays in the house. I'm burnt. Siblings can't help. I resent my retirement. Oh, so this one touched me. To the writer who wrote this one in, you are entitled to your priorities and your dreams as well. But for sure, it's not uncommon for caregivers to share the load unequally. Sometimes it can be because somebody's more available, somebody else is out of town, or maybe someone's just more comfortable or even more capable. But just because you appear to be the most obvious choice because you have retired doesn't mean it's the only choice. It's very important. Speak up within your family and with each of you for what you are able to offer and what you are willing to offer. Feeling angry and doing it anyway doesn't resolve the issue. So communicating your true feelings, it's the only way to make some peace with the role. And even if you're a sole caregiver, if you're not part of other family caregivers, seek support from the public system. Regarding being too independent for a private seniors residence, I have to say there's many kinds of different levels of care in these residences. And it's hard for us to know exactly what they look like. So Lucy and I highly recommend talking to your social worker as well as private relocation consultants, because these people know all the different residences and actually what they have to offer. And an interesting thing, and I know this from my own parents, one doesn't have to wait until you're so declined to move to a senior's residence. Actually, there's so many things to take advantage of when you are still well enough. So it's just something to think about. Staying at home with care. Yeah, finding the right person or team post-pandemic, we see it's harder than ever. There's definitely a lack of staff. But if you've got to persevere, and once you can do this, you find the right person or team, it's a game changer. And you can supplement, keep in mind, with public and community resources. There are in-home stimulation programs, drop-in centers, day centers. There are respite programs also. You can have a few hours of respite during the week, or I don't know if people know, but you can book a week at a time at an outside facility. In Quebec, you can book 3 weeks at a time, I believe. Or another choice is you can have someone come to your home for a week. And again, in Quebec, the program is called Baluchon Alzheimer's. So the key is to put together a home care plan to prevent your burnout. All right, anything to add, Lucy, or we go on to the next question?
We can go on to the next question, sure.
Okay. Okay, this one's mine again, and here it is. How do I deal with conflicting opinions of my siblings regarding the care of my parents? This is another topic that we did a whole webinar about that is worth repeating, because conflict amongst caregivers can be experienced at any point during the caregiving journey. But it is such a big topic. I'm just going to touch on this today. So I really encourage you to go back to the webinars and choose the one on conflict amongst caregivers to get more details on it. So the first thing I want to do about this question is just normalize it, even for those families or caregivers who are getting along well. Just remember, our emotions get so riled up because of many factors, but also the importance of decision-making for someone else who can't necessarily tell you what they want, or also who maybe is telling you what they want, but it's not the best choice. And every one of us as a caregiver, regardless if we were raised in the same family, we all come with our own perspective and awareness and level of knowledge and maybe level of denial or acceptance. So what do we do with all that? A good place to start is to understand your own deeper aspiration first. What's making your point of view so passionate and so important to you? So once you've done that, then using empathy, seek to better understand the aspirations of others. Keep in mind your family dynamics and history. Can you possibly, and I know this is sometimes a tough ask, but can you replace being defensive with being curious and open-minded? Can you listen to the other's perspectives? Because this is going to make a difference. Once the motives behind each one of your choices are better understood, then you can start to talk and negotiate a little bit more. Communication is everything. Then try to agree on one step together and build on that. Sometimes, though, even this is difficult to achieve, and we have to acknowledge that old patterns and habits that are in our families just do not change. And that's a really good time to ask for help, consult a social worker or a mediator. And even that, when all else fails and caregivers just cannot see eye to eye, then we look to legal precedent. And it's the person who has the authorized power who is allowed to make the decisions. So that's just a taste of what to do with conflict.
And sometimes we just have to accept that things might not be perfect.
Well, this is so true, the good and the bad. So I'm going to go on to the next question, and it's a bit of an extension. So this question is, can you advise how to deal with your spouse's grown children from a previous marriage when they are not collaborative at all? And we do see this, and it's a tough one. So, my big message is advanced planning and communication are so key. But to answer this, I have to really bounce on what was just said in the previous question. When you add a step family or blended family dynamics to caregiving, it's even more challenging. In this case, you may not have the historic ties that bind you. You may not have trust and loyalty that helps with collaboration. So a good place to start here is really just reminding yourself why you are all here together. Who's that person in the center, and who is this all about? For some people, second marriages bring up feelings of betrayal, and that can really get in the way. So although you can't change people, and you can't change your new relatives, your team, and the family dynamics, ask yourself, what is in your control? What is not? What can you influence? Well, you do have control over yourself and the energy that you're going to put forth, and your ability to listen and show compassion. Pause. And pause is a really powerful tip. And it's interesting. This morning I was on another conference and this came up, and it really bears repeating. And it's something that Viktor Frankl said. Some people might recognize him from he's a Holocaust survivor, and he's very well known for his book, Man's Search for Making Meaning. But he says something so powerful about pausing. Between the stimulus, whatever happens, and your response, there's a space. And in that space, we have the power to choose and decide how we react. So really, this is an invitation to really think of it and think of the word pause. Also, try not to sweat the small stuff. Save your energy for what really counts, because this can be exhausting. So as the slide says, I cannot overemphasize the importance of planning and communicating in advance, especially in second marriages. The sharing of financial decisions and assets. What happens to the caregiver spouse? This needs to be clear and understood in advance. Protect yourself. Know your rights. Mandates of incapacity, living wills, power of attorney, all financial decision-making powers. Who's going to live where? These things are important to understand. Even if, in the end of the advanced discussions, you do not all agree, at least you're going to know what's on the table. You're going to know the plan. You are going to have enough surprises just with the unexpected of how the disease unrolls. So plan for what you can. Talk about it together, at least before you're in the crisis. And then last point is extremely important. In the case where actions are taken that you feel are unjust and you're not able to resolve it, you may want to seek a legal consultation. Again, protect and know your rights. All right, so I'm assuming we are moving on to the next question, and that is going to be you. Oh, what do I hear?
There was a chat.
Yes.
So Simone is asking if you're aware of any special programs that offer training in communications and empathy for caregivers.
Oh, okay. That's an interesting. Well, the first thing that comes to mind, I have to say, is the program of positive intelligence that I presented on last time in the webinar. And you can just Google that, positive intelligence. And it's very interesting. It gives you a little assessment online to identify your triggers. But the other thing I want to say is that, the words empathy and communication, the piece of your question, it's being talked about everywhere today. And I would turn to the associations. I would look to Alzheimer Group, Alzheimer societies, senior centers, because a lot of them have courses as well in empathy, compassion, and communication. Other than that, I have many probably in my resources, but I can't think of them offhand. Lucy, is there anything that comes to your mind?
No, I think there is a lot of education out there, and you're right. They should get in touch with the organizations.
Yeah. I just do want to make the point that Lucy and I, if you go back and look at the webinars, and there are so many webinars on the dementia education website that Claire has done with many, many guests. So many of the themes are talked about there. So you might be able to find some answers right here in the dementia education program. So thank you for adding to our conversation in the chat.
We appreciate that. So let's go to the next question. As part of caregiving for spouses, I would like more information about activities to do at home, resources, and booklets. Thank you for this positive question. It's nice to hear. Many times caregiving is all-consuming, since most of the tasks that you might be doing with that individual is focused on providing care. So often, due to your caregiving role, you kind of lose the everyday normal connections you had with the person in the past. It's so important to do meaningful and fun activities together. it's really very rewarding for both of you as a couple. And it may even improve quality of life and reduce agitation behavior if the person is doing that or wandering. It can enhance a sense of dignity, normalcy in your relationship. But I think I want to point out that activity should fit the person's ability to participate in so that they can succeed and not become frustrated. So we can talk a lot. I'm going to talk about activities because it also kind of gives information to that other question that we had in the beginning. But if I may just share very quickly, when I was a frontline social worker, I went into someone's home. Wife was taking care of her husband. He had a lot of cognitive impairment. He was sitting there. He wasn't talking. And I kind of asked her, so what did you used to do in the past? And she said, well, we used to dance together, ballroom dancing. I don't know why I said this, but I said, well, do you have any music that you could kind of put on? In those days, we had cassettes. And sure enough, she did. And all of a sudden, it was like an awakening. This gentleman, her husband, got up, walked over to her, positioned himself, and they started dancing. And I could see the look on their face. It became kind of normal. So there are activities that you could maybe do from the past, but there are other activities. You know, reminiscing is such a good activity because many people don't remember what they had for breakfast, but they can remember things from the past. So you're giving them an opportunity to engage and to feel that they're adding to the conversation. Family picture albums. I know everything is on phones today, but if you have a picture album, it's so much easier to sit there. They can look at it. You can discuss. Sing along. Sing along is really, really a positive activity. And of course, music. Music is it's just something that we should be using on a daily basis. It really enhances. Now, dancing together, as I said, you can go for a walk. You can exercise in a chair, lifting both your legs, watching a favorite movie. Now, having a ball at home and throwing it catch is also an activity that could be done. Reading a book out loud, color by numbers. Now, this is from caregivers themselves. I don't know. Men like to coin sorting. So if you have a lot of change, keep your change. It seems to be something that they enjoy. Household chores, sometimes you can bake together, do things like that. And then there was another one that was really quite fascinating. The woman caregiver, she bought an apron for her husband with pockets, and she put very interesting things inside of that. And as he was taking them out, they would sit, they would talk about it. And again, the thing is humor, laughing, anything that you can kind of watching a funny show together. What I want to say is that you cannot only do caregiving activities. You cannot only do that all the time. You've got to connect with the person. So thank you, Joanne, for that. She put us resources, Dementia Activity Booklet, Dementia, your companion guide, has an amazing assortment of all different activities. So I saw something on the chat. Could someone read it for me?
Yeah, absolutely. I did put those links to the activity booklet in the chat as well, so people can click on the links if they like. So we have a question from Terry, not a question, actually, a comment from Terry, just mentioning that she has pots of soil with fake flower stems so that her dad can garden for his long-term care room. What a great idea, Terry. Love that.
Yeah, gardening is wonderful to have. Yes, even if you're in an apartment, to have a box of flowers or herbs are really easy to plant.
You know what? Take a look at this first one. We can't do it here, but the Dementia Activity Booklet. I don't know if you're able to put the link. Oh, you said you put the link in?
Yes.
It is an incredible, going through it. It was done by occupational therapy students, and it's really worth taking a look at. It's so creative. My favorite one, Lucy, is the one about the apron, though. I love that one.
Yes, I love that too. It was really amazing because you could just go on and talk about all these objects. Yes.
So this is our last question, and then we're just going to turn it over to, we have another, we're in the last 15 minutes.
Okay, so it's frustrating communicating with dementia patients' medical care team. I find my dad's a geriatrician takes a cookie cutter approach and medicates first and dismisses the caregiver's concerns. I do not feel heard or seen. How can I advocate for myself, share my own needs, and ask the right questions? Well, thank you for that question. I can certainly relate with with that, what you're going through. Even though I worked in the healthcare system, many times I also felt dismissed and not listened to by my mother's healthcare team. I was fortunate to have the tools to advocate for her and for myself, but it wasn't easy. I had to really negotiate. Negotiating the healthcare system is difficult and confusing. In order to be heard, caregivers need to put your advocacy hat on. You know, advocating for your family member and yourself is crucial. It's really very simple. It means speaking up for yourself or for someone else. It doesn't mean yelling, doesn't mean screaming, it's negotiating. So, how do you do it? So, first, number one, educate. Do your research about the disease process and the healthcare system as much as you can so that you know what you are faced with. Two, keep a journal about your concerns. Three, before making an appointment with the doctor or any other healthcare worker, list your questions ahead of time, be specific, and include details to explain your concerns. Four, if you feel you're not being heard, let them know. Tell them, I'm just, express to them with facts. Five, ask for what you need in order to maintain the person at home. Six, let them know what you're not able or willing to do and why. Seven, it's important to develop a good rapport with the doctor and other healthcare workers that are involved in the case. And eight, it's really important to know your rights. There is a complaints commissioner, and never be afraid to voice your concerns about service. Actually, many times they welcome it, I have to say, and they have to respond to you within a certain amount of time. It does take time and self-confidence to develop these skills, but I think if you at least start thinking about it and start working one step at a time. Any other thoughts?
So we're at the part of our series where we have another 10 minutes, and I'm gonna stop sharing here. Hold on a second. And we really want to open it up. Are there any questions that anyone here has that you're brave enough or willing to put in the chat or ask us? We're here to toss around anything you want, or a little bit more of something we've discussed.
Sorry, I just wanted to mention if people are more comfortable asking their question verbally, feel free to unmute yourself and ask your question if you prefer to do that instead of posting in the chat or comment, whatnot, or raise your hand, whatever you're most comfortable with.
And I think you can also take your name off if you wish to. Is that possible?
People have to do it themselves.
Yes.
Yeah, if you hover over your name and you click on those three little dots that appear, that's where you can you can rename yourself if you like.
So I think while we're waiting and see if anybody has any questions, I want to go back to the whole question on learning about empathy and compassion. And I just want to offer something. When it's hard, and especially I don't know what the topic is that person was referring to, but if it's around conflict, or even sometimes if it's the person we're caring for and we're having difficulty finding the compassion, something that really helps is either thinking about that person or remembering back to when they were a younger child. And I just, sometimes that helps us to remind that, this person used to be a certain way, and they had compassion. And I had an experience with my daughter once that I thought was very interesting, and she told it to me later, is that when I was disciplining her at the time she was a teenager and very, very upset with me, she shared that she used to go in my bedroom and look at a little baby picture of me and remind herself that I must be nice because I was a baby once. And it's such a simple message, but it does help us to have compassion for others through a baby photo. And I want to add, it also helps us to have compassion for ourselves, to think of ourselves, no matter if we don't behave as we wish on our worst days. Sometimes if we remember the young little girl or boy or child we were, it helps for us to remember how innocent we really are. We're still that same child, and we deserve our own self-compassion as well. Okay.
Well, while everyone is thinking, I also want to go back to the question about not forgetting the relationship that you had with that person. I did speak about activities that you can do, but it's also it's trying to capture and to remember, as Joanne was saying, what was your relationship like before? You know, can we do things together that are meaningful? It's easy to get lost, and I can certainly identify with that with my mother. You know, it was extremely difficult. But I had to find a way to still be able to connect with her. Interestingly enough, as her daughter, and she as my, as my mother, I still needed to feel that sense. And the way I was able to do that, because she was a cook, a really good cook, was I would ask her about recipes. And you know what? It didn't matter if she remembered them or didn't remember them. But she felt like all of a sudden she had something to offer me. So I know it's not easy, but it's part of our journey that caregivers go through.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's such a challenging journey. It doesn't always bring the best out of us. And we again, going back to compassion, education is key. And I'm going to recommend again, Dementia, the education booklet, as well as a great resource to look at.
I noticed there were a couple of people who had unmuted, so I'm just wondering if anyone wants to unmute their mic and say a few words now. Maybe we'll take a little pause and let people do that if they'd like to.
Oh, there's a hand up. Go ahead.
Hi, I'm calling from Sydney, Nova Scotia. My husband has vascular dementia, and I ran into a bit of a glitch. Like, I'm the only one. Like, he's an only child. So I ran into a problem with respite because there's so few beds here in Nova Scotia. So I have some activities I want to go to, and it's like, you can't go because you can't get respite beds. And I'm like, really? Like, this has been coming for a long time. And having worked in healthcare myself, I worked in laboratory services and management for 31 years. I am so frustrated at the lack of infrastructure planning. Like, this is not space science. This is something that we could all see. You could see it in every profession. We knew there was going to be a shortage of doctors. We knew there was going to be a shortage of nurses. But it's the lack of planning. I'm like, really? And until you get into the situation, it's really hard to understand that there has been really no planning done. And it's frustrating.
It is.
I don't know about provinces, but I was told, like, after we went through, like, I have an attorney, so we went through all the community stuff, and then you get the letter based on your income. And when my husband does eventually decline enough that he does have to go into care, what it's going to cost based on the yearly income and how much respite costs. And you can have 60 respite days, but there's no respite facility. So I have no health issues. I've worked since I was 10 years old. I expected to have retirement, but it's like I don't feel trapped anymore, because, like, if worse comes to worse, I'm from a big family. I phoned my older sister, who's a saint, and she would come down, but she's a cancer survivor. She, like me, has been working since she was 10 years old. And as I say, like, I don't know how the rest of the people in Nova Scotia are doing, but I'm like, I really think someone should have been doing some planning, excuse me. And part of the frustration with my husband's disease is he needed a second mitral valve replacement, and they delayed it because there were not enough ICU beds, critical care ICU for cardiac patients in Halifax, because Halifax looks after New Brunswick, PEI, Newfoundland, and Nova Scotia. So when he got to the hospital, and this is after waiting 3 months and watching him circle the drain, he had to wait 10 days. Every time a helicopter came, his was canceled. And he wasn't the only patient. So the journey has been fraught with not just frustration, but hurt.
Thank you for sharing with us, because we're at least saying it out loud. It's important to do. You know, we read everything about what the politicians should be doing and how it is realistically for us. And thank you for sharing about what's going on in your end of Canada as well. I'm just wondering, are you in touch besides the public? What do the Alzheimer's associations out there? Are there advocacy groups there? Is there anywhere you can put your voice out?
Vascular dementia. Sorry. He doesn't
vascular dementia. But, you know, even if the disease has a different name, you know, under the dementia umbrella, we have to get together. We have to advocate and put our voices out for more resources. But it doesn't change your reality now. Extremely frustrating. Wish we could help you.
I wish we could help you also, but it's right across Canada and the United States. I have to tell you, it's a difficult time.
Hey, ladies. So I'd like to mention, I believe that Nancy wanted to say a few words. Nancy, please go ahead.
Okay. It's a simple question. You had mentioned what a good book the dementia activity booklet is, but how do we, I already have the McGill dementia book, that wonderful book that has kept me going and really helped me at times. But the activity, dementia activity booklet, where do we get that?
Diane,
my question.
Yeah.
I did. I'll repost the link in the chat. So it's really available online. We don't have hard copy versions of it, but it's available online in English and French.
Okay.
So I'll put the link in the chat as well. All of the resources are available if you go to mcgill.ca/dementia and you look at all the different choices that you have on there. It's called the Dementia Activity Guide. So yeah, you're welcome to download it.
McGill, Giuseppe, say it again.
Yeah. I'll put the link. Do you have it? Can you see the chat? If not, it's mcgill.ca/dementia.
Okay.
So all the resources are on that website.
Okay, perfect. Thank you very much.
Super.
I've really enjoyed, I have to say, I've really enjoyed, I haven't seen them all, but I've seen quite a few of your webinars, and I am now a burned out caregiver who didn't even think there was anything wrong with me. I thought I was fine. And then we really had a crisis, and my legs gave out on me, and my head pretty much is given out on me. And my husband, thank goodness, is in a wonderful home. He doesn't think it's so wonderful, but I think it's a terrific home, very close to where I live. So I just thank God for that. But anyway, it's been rough. I can't seem to get back on my feet the way I was before, but still, he's being well looked after. So
make sure you're well looked after then. Really make sure you care for yourself too. Thank you for sharing.
Oh, I have to, because really I'm dizzy and I'm all sorts of lovely things that, no, I do look after myself, because my body lets me know that it's not going to let me do anything else. Okay. Thank you, guys.
It takes time to heal. Give yourself time.
Okay. And I just have to say that when I hear the woman from Nova Scotia with that situation, how awful that is, and then think what we have here in Quebec, I feel very fortunate. So thank you guys very much. Okay, I'll mute myself again.
I think I saw a chat from Simone. Did we miss her?
So Simone was asking if the activity booklet is available in Ukrainian. So we have actually developed a Ukrainian version, but we haven't posted it online yet. That should be posted online shortly.
So interesting.
Just as a reminder, the booklet's available in 8 languages right now to download for free. So we are looking at other languages as well, but I believe it's like Spanish, Portuguese, French, English, Chinese. So you have quite a lot of choices already available online, and we're looking at other languages as well. But yeah, Ukrainian should be posted, I'd say, probably within the next month.
Hi,
Well-
I just want to clarify, Diane, that it's the Dementia Companion Guide that's translated into all those languages, not the activity book.
Yes, exactly. Thank you. The activity booklets in English and French.
Are there any other questions, comments that we can help you with in the time that we have remaining? Take your time. We're here another bit.
We do have a question posted in the chat. So I'm just going to read out the question. I'm new to this series and just listening to you today, as impatient and irritable as I can become as a caregiver, I'm feeling calmer and refueled. So thank you so much to the team. Oh, that's such a lovely comment. Thank you. Thank you, Maria.
That's what makes this so special to both of us. If we can just reach one caregiver and make you feel that there's a light at the end of the tunnel. And you don't have to do it alone. We're here for you.
Yeah. I want to maybe touch on what the previous speaker said also, about her. She listens. I think it was you, Nancy, who said you listen to your body. And there's such a mind, body, soul connection. Sometimes as caregivers, we try to fool ourselves. We go. We might think nobody else can do it. Nobody else can do it as well as we can do it. The helpers, they're not as competent as I am. They're not as compassionate as I am. The interesting thing is that we can't, physically, the signs, if we wait too long, the signs will come out in us as illness. So I'm going to go back to that word again, pause. It's also very important to pause for ourselves, just to take stock. How am I doing? We're here so much to gain answers on how to care for the person we're taking care of. Just a reminder, check in with yourself often, and just, again, make sure you're doing well.
100%. I was doing a podcast the other day and about stress and how it affects, and we did a lot of research. Being in a stressful situation all the time can actually, you all of a sudden feel that you're cognitively declining. You can't remember things the way you did before, and it does affect if you're in your body, your cognitive functioning. And in it, you need to allow yourself, you need to give yourself permission to take care of yourself. It's so important. Every single day, you have to do one thing for yourself, no matter what it is. It could be just to go for a walk, a bubble bath, speaking to a friend. And the other thing that we also want to emphasize is please don't isolate yourself. And we're so happy when caregivers do join our sessions, because we have a tendency to isolate ourselves.
Yeah.
Well.
Anything else? Or Diane, are you going to do the wrap up? Or
Yeah, sure. I guess we'll wrap up now. Absolutely. So thanks a lot, Joanne and Lucy, and all of you who are participating from home today. We really enjoyed spending this time with you. This is the last Caring Conversations until September. We're taking a little break for the summer. So note that everything has been recorded and posting on the Caring Conversations website, so you can view it whenever you like at your convenience. And we're going to be sending out a newsletter at the beginning. We're going to be sending out a newsletter in early September to let you know when the next session takes place. And this is a pilot project. So we've done 8 episodes now, and we really want to get your feedback, know how you've enjoyed it. So we're going to be sending out a short evaluation form. If you could take a bit of time to fill that in, that would be much appreciated. Once again, thank you very much to the Petro-Canada Caremakers Foundation for sponsoring Caring Conversations. And if you'd like to know more about the McGill Dementia Education Program, we do have a mailing list. So if you click on mcgill.ca/dementia, you can sign up for the mailing list, and that way you'll hear about any of the new initiatives that are coming up. You'll hear about all the McGill Cares episodes that are recorded every couple of weeks. It's a great way to keep up to date on our program. So we hope that you found this conversation interesting today, and we wish you all the best. We'll see you in September.
Bye, everybody. Take care of
Thank
yourself.
you. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Diane and Maria. Bye, Joanne.
Thank you. Nice comments in the chat. Wonderful program. Keep up the great work. That's really nice. Thank you, Terry.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.